What if the bridge you built wasn't made of wood or stone, but of second chances? This is the story of how one man's choice changed an entire town. The town of Maplewood, Ohio, was known for its quiet streets, its golden autumn trees, and the wide Maple River that cut right through the middle. For years, the river had been both a gift and a curse. On calm days, it glittered like glass, reflecting the sky. But when storms came, it became a raging monster, swallowing anything in its path. At the edge of this river lived Jacob Harris, a retired construction worker in his late 60s. His hands were calloused from decades of labor, and his back ached more often than not. But his eyes carried a softness that told of wisdom earned through hardship. Jacob lived alone since his wife had passed away, and most days he spent sitting on his porch, watching the river run.
The kids of Maplewood often avoided him, not because he was unkind, but because they thought of him as just another old man with old stories. What they didn't know was that Jacob was carrying a memory that never left him, a memory tied to the river itself. One spring morning, after a night of heavy rain, Jacob walked down toward the riverbank. The current was wild, foaming and thrashing against the stones. As he stood there, he noticed a young boy, no more than 15, stranded on the other side. His bike had slipped on the muddy ground and he was stuck, waving desperately. There was no bridge nearby. The old wooden crossing had collapsed years ago, and the town council never rebuilt it because a larger highway bridge was built miles away. But for people on foot, especially kids, that meant long detours. The boy shouted, his voice trembling, "Sir, please, I need help." Jacob's heart raced. He knew he couldn't swim across, not at his age, not in that current. But he also knew one thing: if he didn't act, that boy would try to make it across himself, and that could be fatal. That night, Jacob couldn't sleep. The sound of the river echoed in his ears, and the boy's frightened face haunted him. He sat at his old wooden table, running his fingers across a faded photograph of his brother. Decades ago, when Jacob was a teenager, his younger brother Michael had drowned in that very river. They had tried to cross it on a raft, thinking it would be fun. The current was too strong. Jacob survived, Michael didn't. And so, staring at that picture, Jacob whispered, "I couldn't save you, Mike, but maybe I can save someone else." The next morning, Jacob pulled out his old toolbox, rusty nails, worn hammers, splintered wood. He had little to work with, but he had knowledge, experience, and most importantly, determination. He decided he would build a bridge, not for himself, but for anyone who needed it. When Jacob shared his idea with the neighbors, most laughed. "Jacob, you're nearly 70. You can't even climb a ladder without your back giving out. Leave it to the city. They'll fix it someday. Why risk your health? No one even uses that part of the river anymore." But Jacob shook his head. "A bridge isn't about traffic," he said. "It's about people. One day, someone will need it, and it should be there." The kids who once ignored him now watched curiously as Jacob dragged wooden planks down to the river. His hands blistered, his back screamed in pain, but day after day, he worked. One afternoon, as Jacob hammered a support beam, he felt a tap on his shoulder. It was the same boy he had seen across the river weeks earlier. "Sir," the boy said shyly, "I told my friends about you. They want to help." And soon enough, 5 teenagers showed up, carrying scrap wood, ropes, and buckets of nails. They weren't builders, but they had energy, and Jacob had knowledge. Together they made a team. The work was messy. Sometimes the beams didn't fit. Sometimes the rain washed away progress. But slowly, plank by plank, something began to take shape. Neighbors who once mocked Jacob now stopped by with coffee, sandwiches, or extra wood. What started as one old man's impossible dream was becoming the town's shared project. By early summer, the bridge was finally complete. A modest wooden structure with sturdy beams wide enough for pedestrians and bikes. The whole town gathered for its unofficial opening. The mayor, though hesitant at first, came to see what Jacob had accomplished. Children lined up, waiting for their chance to be the first to walk across. But before anyone could step forward, Jacob raised his hand. His voice cracked with emotion as he said, "This bridge isn't mine. It belongs to everyone. I built it for the boy who's stranded. I built it for the kid who might walk home late one night. I built it for the family who can't afford to drive around miles to the next crossing. Most of all, I built it because years ago I wished there had been one." Silence hung in the air. Then slowly, the young boy who had once called for help stepped forward. He placed his foot on the first plank, looked back at Jacob, and smiled. The crowd erupted into cheers as he crossed to the other side. In the weeks that followed, the bridge became part of everyday life. Kids biked across it to school. Joggers used it on their morning runs. Parents with strollers no longer had to take the long route. But the bridge did something more powerful than convenience. It connected people. The town that once shrugged off Jacob now gathered around him with respect and gratitude. For the first time in 50 years, he didn't look at the river with regret. Instead, he looked at it with peace. Years later, after Jacob passed away, the town council officially named it Harris Crossing in his honor. A plaque at the entrance read, "He built not just a bridge across water, but a bridge across hearts. The bridge you build for others will one day carry you too." And generations later, parents told their children the story of the old man who refused to give up, who built something not for himself, but for others. Moral: the story of Jacob Harris teaches us that the bridges we build in life are not just physical. They are emotional, spiritual, and moral. Every act of kindness, every effort to help someone else, becomes a bridge that carries both them and us forward. True success isn't reaching the other side alone. True success is building a bridge so others can reach it too.
Tell me, if you had the chance to build a bridge in someone's life with kindness, forgiveness, or hope, would you take it? Give answer in comment.
If you liked this story, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel.